After England got their second win of this World Cup tournament, it's time for Ask George. The flighty heights of seventh now, George, are England.
I've got a nosebleed.
George Wood is the first question today, and he asks, is this England performance a bit like the fire brigade arriving at the burning pile of rubble where your house used to be and putting it out straight away?
It's a good line. Do you know what? It's not quite. To be fair, it's not quite. And I know that not everyone is particularly enamoured with the Champions Trophy, but just because it's not everything doesn't mean it's nothing. And there is some value there. There's some value in lots of ways. There's some value in terms of pride and some value in financial terms and all the rest of it. And I think more than anything, I think playing in the 2017 Champions Trophy was very important in the evolution of the side that went on to win the 19 World Cup. So I think it does matter a bit. It's clearly not what England came to do in India. But yeah, there's some value. Look, I think the Fire Brigade have come and they've saved some shirts.
Yeah.
The house is gone.
Philip Sterling asks, should we make the group stage 18 games now England have hit their stride?
No. No. It's time to go home.
It's been how many days it had been? Someone had said, I think Nick Friend said that 7 football managers had been sacked in the duration between England's first World Cup win and England's second World Cup win.
Well, I measure everything in terms of how many children Alex Lees has had in that time.
Any more?
I presume not. I mean, he's not half rabbit, is he? I mean, maybe he is. Yeah, it does feel like quite a long time. There's been a lot of travel. Oh, look, it's been lovely. It's been brilliant. It's always fun to go places that you've never been and, you know, do things you've never done. And sometimes the more ridiculous the experience at the time, the better the story afterwards. I'm telling myself that a lot in recent days.
Simon Stokes, apparently no relation, has asked, yet again, Stokes produces a big innings after a measured start. Maybe the entire team should take note of this.
I think that's a really, really good point. And I think that something that he said afterwards was that Ben, this is, was reminded of how much time you have and how much time you have to make up. And what was it England scored in the last 10, 125 roughly? And so, yes, he gave himself a chance to play that shots. He earned that opportunity. And I think there's a big difference between the way he batted and the sort of frenetic, panicky way that some of the others batted, particularly Joe Root. You know, I've written about this. I think the shot he played is not the same as the reverse scoops we've seen in the past. I think the context is very, very different. And I think we're selling everything, him including, short, if we just say it's one of those things. It's a high-risk shot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I thought what happened today was, okay, so is this all right to go into this, Rio, or is this too boring?
Go for it. Okay. I think it was it was the reaction from the England fans in the crowd that kind of summed it up, really.
It is always a shot that's going to look bad if you miss it.
But if you don't, it looks incredible.
Yes, but look, when there's a new book out called Bazball. I don't know if it's actually out yet, but I've reviewed it for the magazine, and it has a really interesting interview with Joe about when he played that shot, the first ball of a test day against Tim Southey. It went for 6. And at the time, it was definitely shocking. I mean, you know, you're still settling in your seat and all the rest of it. And he reverse scoops the first ball of the day for 6. And he explained it so well. You know, there was a packed offside field, slips, close offside field. You know that Southey's going to bowl outside off stump. And he's looking for an edge, really. There's no one on the leg side. And no one at deep third, obviously, because you've got a slip cordon. So it's not a risk-free shot, but he sort of knew where the bowler was going to bowl. Okay, let's move to today. There's 4 fielders in the ring from just behind square. So he's got basically 2 fielders at square leg, one either side of the umpire. One at mid-wicket and one at mid-on. 4 and then a 5th fielder on the leg side at a deep backward square. So 5 on the leg side. He's bowling straight. And also at the same time, they've got a deep third and a deep point. It was not a percentage shot. It was not a good shot, and it was not well played. It is not the same thing. And it's a real worry how flustered he looked and how flustered Jos Buttler looked in everything he did, really. But maybe the win will be good for all of them. Maybe they'll be able to take something from that. But it's a bit of a worry that such experienced, such good players are making such poor judgment calls. And that is a worry. It suggests that something isn't right. You know, I'm, as you know, not... I don't think blaming Matthew Mott is the way to go here. But it doesn't look as if he's been able to keep them calm and keep the environment optimum to playing at their best. Don't know. So I'm a bit worried about that.
I mean, heads might be slightly lifted today, but you know, going into the World Cup, that was a game we would have expected to win.
Sure. I mean, without ever being complacent, you know, I think I've seen Netherlands beat England twice before in T20 similar tournaments. So, you know, and then we've all seen these performances, and Netherlands, you know, they've certainly earned all the respect they're getting. And but yeah, the point you make is that England are they still defending champions? I suppose they are. Well, they're still champions. They're not defending anymore, are they?
Yeah.
So yeah, they absolutely would have gone into the tournament with high confidence anyway, not necessarily expecting to win, but very high confidence in games like this. And I don't know what they take from it really, because they've been saved by another Ben Stokes miracle.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like, you know, the last couple of innings he's had to come in and sort of steady the ship, but you know, that sort of quiet, measured start and then teeing off, maybe that's just out of necessity rather than anything for him.
Well, I think it is. I think you're right. But also, I think we used to call that good batting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give yourself a chance, Glenn Maxwell the day before, he set himself, didn't he? I know he was dropped a couple of times, but he did give himself a bit of a chance. He did accelerate anyway. And most of the best innings are like that. It's not rocket science, that stuff.
Aklak has asked, what did it say about the leadership, or is it all vibes, of the England team that they sent their fielding coach, who couldn't answer anything, for the pre-match press conference?
It probably suggested the relationship between the media and the team is not everything it might be right now. I don't feel particularly close to that situation. I'm not... I'm too old and ugly to care, to some extent. You know, been there and done it all before, so I haven't taken it particularly badly personally, but it doesn't suggest a hugely close and respectful relationship right now, and it has been a bit antagonistic. But I don't think the media coverage has been too bad. I mean, I probably would say that because I'm probably not impartial, but they have stunk the place out, Rio. They really have stunk the place out, and people are going to say that, aren't they? I actually think some of the media have held back a bit. I don't hear the broadcasters asking the right questions about Rob Key, and you know, there's a close relationship there, isn't there? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's harsh. But I actually think that anyway, that's why, and you know, I guess no one else wanted to do it, and to some extent, what on earth can they say? But I did think it was probably a slightly negative message. It made it look, I think, as if the captain or coach were hiding, and I don't think that really helps anyone. Yeah, so it wasn't a great moment, and I thought Carl Hopkinson was in an impossible position. And he made it look very difficult. Yeah.
Sushant has asked, should Willey, who he said is always treated unfairly, be asked to reverse his retirement for the T20 World Cup?
No, I think that would be a retrograde. I mean, look, it's up to a player when they want to retire. I wouldn't say he should or shouldn't, but has he been treated particularly badly? Just the premise of that. I wouldn't have picked it, to be fair, in the squad. So he's done great, so, arguably I'd be wrong, but I mean, I can understand why he has just missed out.
Mhm.
He's done very well, but partly because other people have underperformed, and if Reece Topley had stayed fit, and Sam Curran and Chris Wokes had bowled anything like they might have done at the start of the tournament, he wouldn't have got a game, and that's okay. And I still think that you can read a lot into England's fate here by the fact that they've gone back to Milan and Willey, who are guys who missed out in 19. I mean, Milan did get injured right before, but he was going to miss out anyway, I think. So they've gone back to people who are just 4 years older, and I think that's probably a reflection of the state of the England team right now. So no, I don't think David Willey's the future. He's done really well, but no, I don't know. I think that's a bit of a red herring, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's a different makeup of the squad, I suppose. So David Willey, though he has performed better than others, you could say, in the squad this World Cup, he's not necessarily needed for a T20 format.
Well, who knows? No, he probably isn't. I mean, he was there, of course, last year in Australia. I don't think he played, did he? He came on the pitch, I think, and was a sub fielder, and was a wholehearted member of the squad and stuff. And he was there in 16, so he's had a very good career. But I don't. He was here as a reserve, and he's sort of overachieved as a reserve. But I don't know. Does he have the weapons to help England retain that trophy? I'm a bit surprised to hear you think he does, but maybe I'm being harsh.
Occidental Tourist has asked, what has happened to Bairstow, Root and Butler? How have they all come to be in such abysmal form simultaneously?
I think it's a really, really good question, and you're right, they do look awful. And they are fantastic players. Their record over a long time. It doesn't reflect well on the coaching setup. It cannot, and that includes, I'm afraid, Marcus Trescothick, who everyone would agree is a good person, no doubt working very hard. I think that they probably hadn't played enough coming into it, this format. They hadn't played enough ODIs as a side. And they've lost a bit of confidence, and they've lost a bit of rhythm for this form of the game. Those things can spiral. I mean, Bairstow, it looks as if Bairstow suddenly got old. Whether he can come back from this, I just don't know. Today's dismissal might have been the worst of the lot. So, but they've all been very good for a very long time, and it might simply be that they need a bit of a break and then to come back and recalibrate. Sorry.
Do you think maybe Johnny just plays less formats, just stops playing 50 overs, or do you think he's bullish enough to say, I still want to play in this squad, I'm going to keep going? It's quite a Johnny thing to say, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the central contracts are particularly helpful in that regard, because I don't think anyone or not many people are going to retire anymore. Because if you retired at this time of year, you would, I think, be saying, okay, I'm not going to be available in that format anymore. So you would be giving a portion of your central contract back. Why would you do that? So I don't think they'll retire. I don't think many of them will. They'll make, and also they'll be very, they're champion athletes. They're going to back themselves, and so they should. So they'll have to prove themselves. They've got a decision to make about Johnny Bairstow in the T20 team. But I don't know what they'll do, because, of course, he wasn't in Australia. Would have been where he fit. But look, he didn't look particularly fit to me in this tournament. He's a very determined guy with a lot of talent, and you would probably back him to get fit again. But he'll have to work as never before. It doesn't get any easier as you get older, and with those terrible injuries he had. And the same, I mean, Jos Buttler is clearly a brilliant white ball player who just looks completely devoid of confidence right now. He didn't go for a catch. He made a poor decision on a DRS. These things are not like him. He drove very timidly to mid off. It looked like he lost the grip of his handle, probably gripping the bat too hard. All those, I think, is a sign of confidence issues, I would think. But competence always breeds confidence, and at some stage they've got to get the balance right between having a break and working hard. And I think they've managed to be both underprepared and overcooked. That ain't a great combination, and the management has to take some responsibility for that.
Background noise has asked, what will England do when they no longer have a Stokes get out of jail free card?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, and obviously the answer is in the question. The initial thing I was going to say when I read that was they're going to lose a lot, but you do sometimes find that when a very big personality, a brilliant player leaves the dressing room, other players grow. And that really isn't meant to be a criticism of Ben Stokes, who's completely committed to the team cause and obviously is a great cricketer. But maybe his very presence, I don't know about inhibits, but maybe other people will stand up and emulate his example, but maybe that'll be easier when he's not there. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example of that happening, and I can't off the top of my head, but I know there are lots. So maybe that will happen, but I think the question is very good, and English cricket has been bailed out by a lot of miracles, which are Ben Stokes. I remember doing something I think with Mark Butcher years ago when we were at Cricinfo together, and talking about this years ago. I think we were in South Africa, and talking about the strategy for English cricket seems to be Ben will produce a miracle. And nothing's changed. They probably haven't won either World Cup without Ben Stokes producing something pretty ridiculous.
Doing a Ben Stokes, as I like to call it.
Yeah, I mean, good players are obviously allowed to do good player things.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that. But they do seem a bit over-reliant on the individual that is Ben Stokes. And, that's a worry when the physical toll of that is clearly telling on him. And they've been down that route with Jofra Archer. They've had a special player, they've overused him and potentially broken him. They do have to take care of him. He's special.
And our last one today, which I think sums up today's England game and yesterday's Australia game, is from Swamphill Singh, who asks, do we really need two legs to play cricket?
Obviously not. I'm going to give a slightly right-on answer to that, and I'm sorry for doing it, but I actually really mean it. One of the best things I ever did was go and watch the disability sides playing, particularly the Pakistan disability side. I wish I could remember his name. Genuinely, one of the best pieces I ever wrote was for Cricinfo. It was about 2012, and I was just blown away by it. But there was a fast bowler, and he runs it on crutches, and just sort of then bowls really fast. And it was brilliant. And there was one of the other things I remember about that, without being indiscreet, is I couldn't believe the sledging the teams gave each other. I mean, just the most inappropriate stuff about each other's disabilities. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But just on a really basic level, some of the people who are playing disability cricket are amazing athletes. But that's, as I say, probably a slightly right-on, boring answer. But it has been an amazing 2 days, to see Glenn Maxwell and Ben Stokes. I thought Ben Stokes looked a bit better, by the way, didn't you? I thought he moved a little bit more easily.
Yeah,
God knows why.
Didn't look as dodgy as before.
And it pained me because yesterday's the Glenn Maxwell innings, if I'm honest, really pained me because I wanted, it's no secret I'm friends with Trotty and known him a long time. And I really wanted them to win. I wanted Afghanistan to win. And they've obviously played brilliantly, but I thought they bowled really quite poorly. Make him stretch. Bowl wide Yorkers. Hurt the bugger. That's what I was thinking. And he played fantastically. Of course he did. A ridiculous innings. And it was incredible how little he needed to move his feet and how good his wrists were and how powerful he was.
I think this is the excuse that me and probably a lot of other tailenders will be using at winter nets is, wow, Glenn Maxwell didn't move his feet when I get told off for not doing so. But he had, it looks like four arms of steel in that inning.
Well, he's got huge amounts going for him, but the hand-eye coordination is incredible. But the ball wasn't really moving at that stage of the innings. When the ball moved laterally, he struggled. I mean, he was almost out first ball, wasn't it? He should have been out twice before he had 30. So it's a different game. If if the ball is moving, particularly the red ball, you've got to move your feet. But yeah, it's been brilliant, hasn't it? It's been unlikely and joyous cricket, and that's kind of what you want to watch World Cups for.
Yeah, the last week's kind of ramped up a bit, I suppose, because there's been more results and table standings and points under threat. It's kind of ramped up in the last week or so. It's been an interesting week.
Yeah,
game tomorrow.
It's a great game. Cricket's a great game, and it would be so much less great if it were predictable. There'll be some surprises. Yeah, I bet there are not lots of questions about who I think's going to win. I mean, everyone in the world thinks India are going to win. Everyone does.
But imagine if they didn't.
But everyone thought that West Indies are going to win in '83. God, I'm so old, aren't I? And sometimes strange things happen.
Exactly, George. Well, we shall see you again on Saturday when England take on Pakistan. And if you want to read any more of George's work, become a subscriber to the Cricketer Digital. See you Saturday, George.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. See you soon.